In a world where economic disparity and social injustice have reached unprecedented levels, Korea finds itself on the brink of collapse. The once vibrant and industrious nation, known for its technological advancements and cultural exports, has deteriorated into a dystopian society where the gap between the wealthy elite and the impoverished majority has become insurmountable. Political corruption runs rampant, and the government has ceased to function as a protector of the people, instead becoming a tool wielded by the rich to maintain their dominance. Amid this societal decay, a sinister form of entertainment emerges. Deadly games designed to exploit and eliminate the weakest members of society while providing sadistic amusement for the powerful. These games are not just a product of a depraved few, but a systemic instrument used to suppress dissent, instill fear, and reinforce the social hierarchy. The idea that human lives can be discarded for sport reflects the depth of moral decay in this dystopian world. The genesis of these games is shrouded in secrecy. It begins as whispers among the underprivileged, tales of mysterious disappearances of those who owed too much, who were too poor, or who had become burdensome in the eyes of society. The reality is far more horrifying than any rumor. The games are a clandestine operation run by a cabal of the elite, who see this as both entertainment and a method to purge the undesirable elements of society. What starts as a covert operation soon becomes an open secret, a chilling part of the new societal fabric. The selection process for the participants is methodical and ruthless. Individuals with crushing debts, those living on the margins, and people deemed unworthy by the new societal standards are targeted. They are lured into the games under the pretense of clearing their debts or earning a fresh start. Promises that are as hollow as the society that offers them. In reality, these games are a death sentence for most, with survival contingent on winning a series of increasingly brutal and twisted children's games. The games themselves are a grotesque parody of childhood innocence. Games that once brought joy and laughter are now instruments of death. Red light, green light, a simple stop-and-go game, becomes a slaughterhouse where the slightest movement results in execution. Tug of war, once a test of team strength and coordination, now ends with the losing team plummeting to their deaths. The irony of using such innocent games to carry out such heinous acts is not lost on the participants, who are forced to grapple with the surreal horror of their predicament. The government's role, or lack thereof, in this atrocity is telling. Instead of intervening, they turn a blind eye, effectively sanctioning the slaughter. The games become a tool of control, a method to demonstrate the powerlessness of the masses and the absolute dominion of the elite. This lack of accountability further deepens the divide, reinforcing a system where human life is cheap unless it belongs to the upper echelons of society. As news of the game spreads, society becomes gripped by a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. The games, though officially hidden, become a dark legend, a whispered warning of what happens to those who fall too far in this unforgiving world. For the participants, the games are a nightmare from which there is no waking, a brutal reminder that in this dystopian Korea, survival is the only goal, and even that is a fleeting hope. The selection process for the participants is as chilling as the games themselves, a calculated mechanism designed to prey on the most vulnerable members of society. The organizers, an enigmatic group shrouded in secrecy, meticulously choose individuals who are burdened by insurmountable debts, societal failures, or personal tragedies. These people are seen as expendable, their lives reduced to mere statistics in a corrupt system where the powerful thrive at the expense of the weak. The process begins subtly, with invitations sent to those who have hit rock bottom. These invitations are often disguised as opportunities for financial salvation or a way to wipe the slate clean. The language is enticing, promising a chance to reclaim dignity and provide for loved ones. Desperation, coupled with the allure of a new beginning, drives many to accept without fully understanding the peril they are about to face. Once they accept, participants are transported to a secret location, blindfolded and disoriented, their fates now sealed. Upon arrival, they are stripped of personal belongings and identities, issued identical uniforms marked only by numbers. This dehumanization process is deliberate, reducing them to mere players in the organizer's twisted game. The participants are no longer individuals with histories and families. They become faceless entities, their worth measured solely by their ability to survive. The demographic of the participants is diverse, cutting across various ages, genders, and backgrounds. Some are young adults crushed by the weight of student loans, while others are older, having lost their savings to predatory financial systems. There are parents trying to provide for their children, and individuals who have been cast aside by a society that no longer values them. Despite their varied stories, they share a common thread. They are all victims of a system that has failed them. As they gather for the first time, the reality of their situation begins to sink in. The initial shock is palpable, with many exchanging anxious glances and whispered fears. The arena, stark and cold, feels like a cage, and the participants are the unwitting prey. Some try to remain stoic, masking their terror with a facade of calm, while others are visibly shaken, unable to comprehend the gravity of their predicament. The diversity among them is both a strength and a weakness. While it brings together a wide range of skills and experiences, it also fosters division. Language barriers, cultural differences, and personal biases become apparent as they attempt to communicate and understand their new reality. The organizers exploit these differences, using them to create tension and distrust among the participants. The initial reactions vary. Some cling to hope, believing there is a way out, while others succumb to despair, convinced they are walking a path to certain death. This mixture of hope and fear fuels the early interactions, setting the stage for the alliances and conflicts that will inevitably arise as the games progress. Each participant must grapple with the question of whether they can trust anyone, or if, in this nightmare, it is every person for themselves. As the games begin, the atmosphere shifts dramatically from tense anticipation to sheer terror. The first game is a deceptively simple children's activity, one that evokes memories of innocence and playfulness. However, the reality quickly reveals itself as anything but innocent. The participants, having little to no understanding of what they are about to face, are led into a vast, enclosed arena that feels both surreal and oppressive. The rules are explained in a cold, detached manner by an authoritative figure, whose voice echoes through the arena. The simplicity of the instructions lulls some into a false sense of security, but the more perceptive among them sense that something is amiss. The organizers waste no time in demonstrating the deadly stakes. As the game commences, the participants move hesitantly, some even smiling at the familiarity of the game. It is not long before the first misstep occurs, and the consequences are swift and brutal. The first casualty shocks everyone. A participant who fails to adhere to the game's strict rules is immediately executed, their body collapsing to the ground in a lifeless heap. The suddenness of the death sends a wave of panic through the crowd. Screams echo across the arena as the reality of their situation dawns on them. This is no mere game. It is a fight for survival where the penalty for failure is death. The organizers, observing from a hidden vantage point, remain indifferent to the participants' terror. They are interested only in the spectacle, in how fear transforms these ordinary people into desperate, frantic competitors. The games are engineered to instill a sense of helplessness, and the first game achieves this objective with ruthless efficiency. The once simple rules now carry the weight of life and death, and the participants quickly learn that they must adapt or perish. As the game progresses, the players become more attuned to the stakes. Some fall into despair, their movements sluggish and defeated, while others tap into a survival instinct they never knew they possessed. The air is thick with tension, each second stretching into an eternity as the participants navigate the perilous course of the game. Those who survive the first game are left reeling, their minds grappling with the trauma of witnessing death up close. They are given no time to mourn or process what has happened. Instead, they are herded into another holding area where they await the next game. The survivors are a mix of the strong, the lucky, and the quick-witted, each one questioning how long they can continue to evade death. The first game sets the tone for the nightmare to come. It strips the participants of any remaining illusions about their predicament. They are no longer individuals with names and lives outside this arena. They are players in a deadly spectacle, each moment a test of their will to survive. As they prepare for the next challenge, the weight of what lies ahead bears heavily on them, marking the beginning of a harrowing journey into darkness. As the games grow increasingly brutal, the participants begin to develop survival strategies, recognizing that individual strength alone is insufficient to endure the deadly challenges. They must rely on wits, alliances, and sometimes sheer luck to navigate the perilous environment that the organizers have meticulously crafted to exploit their every weakness. The first and most instinctive strategy for many is to form alliances. In the early stages, these alliances are often based on convenience rather than trust. Players band together out of necessity, hoping that there is strength in numbers. However, as the games progress and the stakes become higher, these alliances are tested. Trust becomes a rare commodity, and the fear of betrayal is ever present. Despite this, some manage to form genuine bonds, finding in each other a shared determination to survive. These alliances become critical in team-based games, where success depends not just on individual skill, but on collective effort and coordination. Players learn to pool their strengths, dividing tasks according to their abilities. The physically strong take on tasks requiring brute force, while the more intellectually inclined handle strategy and problem-solving. This division of labor maximizes their chances of survival, fostering a sense of camaraderie amidst the grim reality of the games. However, the organizers are aware of the power of alliances and deliberately introduce games designed to fracture these bonds. They craft scenarios that force participants to choose between their allies and their own survival, creating moral dilemmas that weigh heavily on the players. These scenarios are meant to sow discord, turning friends into foes and pushing participants to the brink of madness. Betrayals inevitably occur, often prompted by fear or desperation. A player may turn on their allies to secure their own safety, leading to heartbreaking confrontations and a profound sense of loss among the survivors. Yet, these betrayals also serve as lessons, teaching the remaining players the importance of caution and the harsh reality that in these games, trust can be both a lifeline and a liability. Adaptation is another key survival strategy. As the games evolve, so too do the tactics of the players. They become more adept at reading the organizers' intentions, anticipating the twists and traps laid out for them. Some develop unique methods to outsmart the games, using their environment creatively or exploiting loopholes in the rules. This adaptability becomes a crucial skill, separating those who can think on their feet from those who rely solely on brute strength. The mental and emotional resilience of the participants also plays a vital role. They learn to compartmentalize their fears and trauma, focusing solely on the immediate task of survival. For many, the ability to keep their minds sharp and their spirits unbroken is what ultimately keeps them alive. In this brutal contest, the game is as much about mental endurance as it is about physical strength, and those who can master both have the best chance of emerging as survivors. As the games progress, the psychological warfare waged by the organizers intensifies, affecting the participants in deeply personal and often devastating ways. The games are no longer just physical challenges. They become mental battles designed to break the spirit and will of the players. Each participant, already dealing with the stress of survival, now faces a more insidious enemy, their own mind. The psychological toll begins with isolation. Although the players are physically together, the design of the games fosters a deep sense of loneliness. The organizers purposefully pit participants against each other, creating an atmosphere of mistrust. Every interaction is laced with suspicion, as any player could be the next to turn against their peers to secure their survival. The constant threat of betrayal weighs heavily, making it nearly impossible for genuine alliances to form. Sleep deprivation and erratic schedules add another layer of mental strain. The games are structured in such a way that rest is a luxury, and the fear of the next challenge keeps participants in a constant state of hyper-awareness. The lack of sleep leads to hallucinations, impaired judgment, and emotional outbursts. The organizers exploit this weakness, introducing mind games that blur the lines between reality and illusion, further disorienting the players. One of the most brutal tactics employed by the organizers is the use of personal history against the participants. They exploit the players' past traumas, regrets, and fears by orchestrating situations that force them to relive these painful memories. For example, a participant who lost a loved one might face a game that mirrors the circumstances of that loss, creating a psychological torture that surpasses physical pain. This manipulation pushes many to the brink of a mental breakdown. Moreover, the organizers use propaganda and psychological manipulation to instill a sense of hopelessness. They frequently remind the players of their insignificance and the futility of resistance. They broadcast messages that emphasize the power of the organizers and the inevitability of the participants' demise, aiming to strip them of their will to fight. This form of psychological abuse is designed to make the players see themselves as mere pawns, expendable and powerless. Despite these efforts, resilience emerges as a key theme. Some participants find ways to adapt to the psychological warfare, using mental exercises, meditation, or focusing on memories of loved ones to keep their minds intact. The stronger players become beacons of hope, subtly encouraging others to hold on to their humanity amidst the chaos. They offer quiet acts of kindness, small but meaningful gestures that remind their peers of their shared humanity and the life that exists beyond the games. The constant psychological pressure also brings out the worst in some participants, leading to paranoia, desperation, and violent outbursts. The games act as a crucible, revealing the true nature of each individual under extreme stress. For some, the fight for survival means sacrificing their morality, leading to acts of cruelty and betrayal that would have been unthinkable in their previous lives. In this relentless battle of minds, the participants are not just fighting for survival, but for the preservation of their sanity and humanity. The organizers, though powerful, underestimate the human spirit's capacity to endure and resist. This chapter, a deep dive into the psychological warfare of the games, sets the stage for the participants' ultimate confrontation with their tormentors, as they realize that survival requires not only physical prowess, but also the strength to withstand the mental onslaught designed to break them. As the games progress, the tension among the participants and the organizers reaches a boiling point, setting the stage for a dramatic turning point. The remaining players have been pushed to their limits, physically and emotionally, and the facade of control that the organizers have maintained begins to crack. This chapter marks the moment when the dynamics shift, signaling a crucial change in the narrative. The turning point begins with a pivotal event, a game that deviates from the previous ones in its complexity or brutality. This game is designed to break the remaining participants, testing their endurance and forcing them to confront the darkest corners of their psyche. However, instead of succumbing, the players start to push back in subtle but significant ways. They begin to question the rules, looking for loopholes and ways to subvert the organizers' control. The seeds of rebellion are sown, fueled by a growing realization that survival may not only depend on winning the games, but on resisting the system that forces them to play. One of the key factors in this shift is the emergence of a leader among the participants, someone who, through sheer will and charisma, manages to unite the others. This individual becomes a symbol of hope and defiance, rallying the players to resist not only the immediate threats of the games, but also the oppressive forces behind them. Their strategy is not merely to survive, but to expose the games for what they truly are, a grotesque spectacle designed to dehumanize and control. The organizers, noticing the shift in the participants' behavior, react with increasing aggression, attempting to tighten their grip and reassert dominance. They introduce more severe punishments and manipulate the games further, hoping to crush the spirit of rebellion. However, this only serves to strengthen the resolve of the players, who now see their defiance as a form of resistance against a corrupt and cruel system. This power struggle escalates as the players become more adept at reading the organizers' tactics, using their own desperation as a weapon. They start forming tighter alliances, sharing insights and strategies to outmaneuver the game's inherent dangers. Trust, once a scarce commodity, becomes a critical tool in their fight for survival. Betrayals still occur, but the bonds forged in the crucible of the games prove stronger than the organizers anticipated. The climax of this chapter is marked by a significant act of rebellion, an event that turns the tables on the organizers and shocks the unseen audience. It could be the exposure of a hidden weakness in the game system, or a collective act of defiance that forces the organizers to reconsider their tactics. This turning point shifts the narrative from one of passive victimhood to active resistance, setting the stage for the final confrontation that will determine the fate of both the players and the system that enslaves them. The final game is a culmination of all the brutality, psychological manipulation, and desperation that has marked the participants' journey. By now, the once large group has dwindled to a handful of survivors, each having endured immense physical and mental anguish. The remaining participants are scarred, both visibly and invisibly, their eyes hollow from sleepless nights, and their bodies marked by the relentless challenges they've faced. The organizers, reveling in the sadistic spectacle, prepare the last test, designed to be the ultimate test of strength, cunning, and resilience. The final game is deceptively simple, echoing the innocence of childhood, yet carrying deadly consequences. It is a game that demands not only physical endurance, but also mental acuity and emotional fortitude. The stakes are clear. Only one will emerge alive, and the rest will fall, their dreams of survival extinguished in a moment of weakness or miscalculation. The rules are outlined with clinical detachment, the cold voice of the game master announcing the beginning of the last round. In this final test, the atmosphere is fraught with tension. Every glance, every movement, every breath is calculated. The remaining players know that any mistake, no matter how small, could mean their end. They are keenly aware of the eyes watching them, the unseen audience of the elite, who view their struggle as mere entertainment. This awareness fuels both their determination and their desperation. Each survivor fights not only for themselves, but for the memories of those who have fallen before them, those who were once friends, allies, or even rivals. The climax builds as the game reaches its peak, the moments stretching unbearably long, each second laden with the possibility of death. The final victor, through a combination of strategy, strength, and perhaps an unquantifiable bit of luck, stands alone, the last survivor in this cruel contest. The organizers, cold and detached, declare the game over, signaling the end of the nightmare for this single survivor, who is left to grapple with the immense burden of their survival. The aftermath is bittersweet, the air heavy with silence and the weight of what has transpired. The lone survivor is awarded a prize, a hollow compensation for the trauma endured and the lives lost. Freedom, once a distant dream, is now a reality, but it comes at a staggering cost. The survivor steps out of the arena into a world that feels alien, their psyche forever altered by the horrors they've witnessed and the moral compromises they've made. Society, meanwhile, grapples with the fallout of the games. Rumors and whispers of the events circulate among the populace, breeding fear and resentment. The survivor becomes a symbol of resilience, but also of the terrifying reality that such games can exist. The elite, perhaps emboldened, continue their reign, while the rest of society teeters on the brink, questioning how much more they can endure before everything shatters. The games, once hidden in the shadows, leave an indelible mark on the fabric of the world, a grim reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when power and cruelty are left unchecked.